Welcome to the Hoja on Architecture podcast. Video Game Architecture Chapter 6, Vernacular Architecture Overview. Since the structures of constructed cultures in video games are referred to as vernacular architecture, this term must first be clarified. Most buildings throughout history were not designed by architects but by local people using available resources. Studies suggest that 90 to 98% of the world's total building stock is vernacular. However, this vast body of work was historically ignored by architectural historians because it lacked monumental status. Its absence from mainstream architectural theory also contributed to its neglect. Over the past 4 decades, vernacular architecture has gradually gained scholarly recognition, leading to more comprehensive frameworks for understanding it. The definition of vernacular architecture is still debated. A concise version calls it architecture without architects. A broader explanation recognizes it as community-built structures using traditional technologies, reflecting the collective knowledge and norms of a culture, and constructed without professional design involvement. These buildings are context-driven, shaped by available materials, environmental needs, and cultural values. Despite growing awareness, misconceptions remain. Some view vernacular buildings as primitive or obsolete, when in reality they often outperform modern designs, particularly in extreme climates. Others believe vernacular architecture exists only in rural settings or is limited to housing, yet many urban structures like slums or suburbs also qualify. A comprehensive study, a detailed new method for vernacular architecture research, defines vernacular architecture as architectural activity based on local materials and techniques, shaped by climate and culture, and executed without professional architects. The study identifies 3 abstract inputs: climate, economy, and culture, and 3 corresponding outputs: material, technique, and form. Climate is the primary influence, as architecture's essential role is to provide shelter against environmental factors. The Köppen climate classification lists 5 primary types: arid, tropical, temperate, continental, and polar. Vernacular buildings adapt remarkably well to each other. In polar regions, small compact forms like igloos reduce heat loss. In deserts, wind catchers and enclosed courtyards provide cooling, as seen in Bedouin tents or harem houses. In tropical climates, buildings are raised on stilts with permeable facades and large eaves to handle moisture and sun, as in Rumah Adat or Ifugao dwellings. In temperate regions, the milder climate allows greater design variation. Climatic zones also define biomes supporting specific plants and animals. Human, on the other hand, is the only creature that spread all these biomes. The remarkable ability to manipulate all these organic entities and the inorganic materials around them enabled humans to create economies. However, the notion of geographical determinism, which denounces human creativity and views humanity as passive robots helplessly programmed by climate, fauna, and flora, is a misconception. Economic activity differs by region: subsistence, nomadic, agricultural, and industrial. Each affects vernacular architecture. In subsistence economies, mobile populations like hunter-gatherers leave temporary huts behind, such as the Bambuti or Aboriginal Gunya. Nomads use portable dwellings like yurts or Tibetan black tents. In agriculture, settled populations build permanent homes and farming structures. These account for the bulk of vernacular stock today. Even in industrial economies, informal housing in urban fringes like favelas or barriadas continues the vernacular tradition. Culture, the third input, is deeply embedded in vernacular architecture. Unlike animals, which rely on biological adaptation, humans use abstract thought to generate cultural responses to the environment and need. Cultural zones are defined more by shared practices than political boundaries. Culture consists of both intangible elements, rituals, language, beliefs, and tangible ones such as clothing, tools, and buildings. Architecture, part of material culture, reflects values and social organization. Different cultures have distinct norms around daily life, from cooking and dining to work and worship. These differences lead to a vast diversity in spatial arrangements, even for identical functions like sleeping or eating. Thus, cultural variation explains the wide range of vernacular forms across the globe. The concrete outputs of vernacular architecture are material, technique, and form. Material refers to the physical substances used in construction and is dictated by local availability. Builders typically rely on nearby resources grouped into 2 categories: inorganic, like earth, stone, snow, some metals, and organic, like wood, bamboo, grasses, animal products. Earth is the most common building material due to its compressibility and thermal properties, although it is non-renewable. It can be reused and applied through various techniques like cob, adobe, and rammed earth. Taos Pueblo is a notable example. Plants, being renewable and varied, offer many construction options. Structures like the mudif in Iraq and log cabins in Europe showcase these. Hybrid techniques also exist, blending earth and plants for optimal use. The construction technique is inseparable from the material. Each material enables or restricts specific methods. For example, earth cannot be stretched but supports piling, ramming, or plastering. Traditional knowledge dictates how to use these materials efficiently, a process developed through generations of trial and error. Earth-based techniques include carving caves, stacking sod bricks, rammed earth in molds, and wattle and daub plastering. Adobe, made from sun-dried bricks, is one of the most sophisticated building materials. Stones are typically stacked, either dry or with mortar. Plant-based structures vary even more. Logs can be used in load-bearing frames, branches woven into walls, bamboo as frames, and grasses for roofs or wall cladding. These methods reflect profound localized wisdom adapted to both resource availability and climate. Form is the final architectural output and refers to the physical shape of the building. Vernacular buildings tend to use simple geometric forms, cones, domes, cylinders, and cubes, shaped by both environmental need and structural logic. The cone is popular, often forming both the roof and the structure, as in teepees or Siberian chums. Domes are efficient in terms of surface-to-volume ratio, ideal in climates where heat transfer must be minimized. Igloos and musgum houses are examples. Cylindrical forms, often with conic roofs, are common in some African regions. Cubes are rarer due to issues with stress at corners, but the Taos Pueblo again exemplifies this unique form. In all cases, form is a result of careful balance between function, climate, material, and tradition. Understanding the principles of vernacular architecture, its inputs of climate, economy, and culture, and its outputs of material, technique, and form offers a powerful lens for analyzing world building in video games. Fictional cultures constructed in virtual worlds often emulate real-world vernacular logic, adapting architecture to imagined climates, economies, and belief systems. Whether it's the compact desert dwellings in Assassin's Creed Origins, the modular tribal villages in Horizon Zero Dawn, or the nomadic tents and subterranean cities of World of Warcraft, these built environments draw from the same vernacular principles. Just like their real-world counterparts, they are not merely backdrops, but narrative tools, expressing the identity, resilience, and values of their fictional inhabitants. Thus, studying vernacular architecture provides not only insight into human history, but also a foundation for understanding and designing believable, immersive game worlds. This concludes the Video Game Architecture Chapter 6 Vernacular Architecture Overview. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.